This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Yeah, Frank here. He's got his own billiard room.
Yes, it's the
Billiard room.
Come on already. We call it the
place to be.
Yes, the place to be. The place to be.
Then I shall be there.
Now, it's time. Live and in living color.
The Grandy Man can.
Ugh. Time to play the game!
No, you left me satisfied and smiling. So.
That's what she said.
So why do I want this? I want to make bank, bro. I want to get ass. I want to drive a Range Rover.
Place to be Nation, Scott Criscola and Justin Rosero. This is the Place to Be Podcast.
Very nice, Mr. Crisbola. Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis.
Japanese band Oral Vampire produced a song called The Repo Man and used footage.
Oral Vampire, huh?
Or Aural. A-U-R-A-L. What kind of show is this?
Sounds like some Twilight porn in Michael Vincent's collection there.
Oz went on to star in American Pie, of course. Is the lacrosse player. Bismarck. No, wasn't it? Bismarck, wasn't that his name?
Lismark.
No, who's the other guy I'm getting confused with?
Bismarck, yeah, he dressed as North Dakota.
There's only one place where the big boys play, and that is in my extra queen-size bed. Well, it just happens. What can you do?
Let's talk the fix.
I think they might hit a shock wall.
Is that the Shockmaster's wall?
Yeah, I like Big Dick myself. I was just curious. PTB Nation. Let me know what
Here's
you're
our
thinking.
opener.
To do worse than Josh Richard.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to the great episode of the one and only Place to Be podcast. I am your co-host, Justin Rosero, coming at you live, late on this Friday evening, here inside the PTB Man Cave. The final day of January 2014, and we have a star-studded cast with you tonight because we're going to be recapping the weekend that was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for the Royal Rumble, for Ring of Honor, and for all the other stuff that came with it. And of course, we're going to kick things off by bringing in my PIC, the voice of main event, and that is Scott Criscola. Scott, how you doing?
Good evening, JR. Good evening, Place to Be Nation. Welcome to episode 290. 290, JR, of the Place to Be podcast. And on this, we haven't done a Friday night in a while.
Yeah.
And but a special night tonight because for the first time, I think, in the history of the Place to Be podcast, since the birth of PlaceToBeNation.com, I believe, JR, we have the full administrative staff for an entire show, don't we?
Yes, we do, sir. So why don't we start bringing them in, and we'll kick things off with the assistant to the managing editor, and that is my good time, long time, close personal friend, Mr. Chad Campbell. Chadley, how you doing?
Doing good. The band is back together.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And of course, that means one thing. We also have the managing editor, the honcho, the head honcho, not the mic honcho, from PlaceToBeNation.com, and that is, of course, Mr. Brad Woodling. Brad, welcome back.
Gentlemen, good evening. The band is back together. The Full Brain Trust. That's the name. So, Triple H has the authority, but Chad has come up with the Brain Trust of Place to Be Nation.
And now tell us, if we want to order something on Amazon, where do we go?
Right to the front page of PlaceToBeNation.com on the right.
I
can sing it for you.
No, we're good with that. From time to time here on the Place to Be podcast, we will read funny things we come across on Facebook, and I saw one today. We talked in the past how Derek LaRue likes Little People, Big World. Well, tonight I noticed that the cowboy himself, Mr. Roger Morissette, who we'll talk about a lot tonight, he likes Kris Jenner. So that's an interesting one.
Good God.
We're going to have to make this a recurring segment, I think, on the Place to Be podcast. What the nation likes. Be careful what you click on Mondays and Wednesdays, friends.
Yep.
Just keep it up with all the Kardashians.
Yes.
And I know our good friend, I know he used to share a Twitter account with his wife, but I do not believe the Facebook is the same, so there's no excuse with that one.
Yeah, no, he does not share with her, just the Twitter. Which is not a good idea. And it's almost like the Krasafi family. The Krasafi
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. So, yeah, Krasafi is someone. I was talking about that at work today, husbands and wives that share a Facebook account. I don't know about that.
Well, that was like Ashley Cruz for a while had one when we first. We thought it was two ladies that liked the show. We were excited.
I know.
Heather and Ashley. All right.
Are y'all chanting HLA or something?
You know, we're fired up. Though we had some female listeners.
JR kind of goes back to our old days on the old board when those, what was it, Elizabeth fans used to pop on once in a while.
They were crazy.
Those crazy chicks.
Never talk bad about Liz. Carla, she came and went. Where we can't. It's hard to hang on to the female clientele here at the place. To be.
That's funny.
We'll always have Amanda Crisafi. So, Chad, Brad, and myself went to Pittsburgh over the weekend and to take in the Rumble, and we had about 13 to 14 PTB Nation members and a couple outliers that hung out with us too. Mark Claire's friends and some of Brad's friends came. Yeah. Well, I guess Doug's part of the crew, right? But Mike was new. So, Chad, why don't you kick us off? You came the furthest. Let's kind of talk about our trip in, anything that went down, any funny anecdotes, and then we'll get into Saturday, and then we'll head to Sunday.
I departed from Atlanta on Saturday morning and flew Delta, JR's favorite airliner, up to Pittsburgh.
Well, see, it's not bad for you because everything is direct because it's the fucking hub down there. So
everything's direct, exactly. Had Chris Jericho on my flight on the way up, and also some excitable other Rumble fans that pretty much followed us throughout the weekend. And then, so on the flight up there, I pulled up PlaceToBeNation.com, had my morning coffee as I read the Saturday Morning Slam, and then I landed and I met the Cowboy himself and D'Amato, who was, of course, in the way of someone on the moving sidewalk trying to get past that big oaf. So I yelled at him. I was like, "D'Amato, move out of the way!" And then we encountered, I have to say, the oldest cab driver known to man that took us to our hotel. This guy was, no way he was south of 75 years old, straight up out of a bar, looked like he trained Rocky Balboa, very, very grizzled vet. And he had quite the alarmment that we were all from 3 different cities, that we knew each other from the internet. I told him I hosted a podcast. He didn't seem too enthusiastic about that.
A what?
Old-time radio show.
Yeah, that's D'Amato was like a radio show. It's a radio show.
Should ask if we remembered Kukla, Fran, and Ollie.
He asked us if Roddy Piper was still running the show with wrestling. We had some great moments where we talked about Bruno Sammartino, and I told him that I thought Bruno was going to be number 30 in the Royal Rumble, which kind of spiked him up a little bit, even though I don't think that'd happen. And then he still had some real bitter thoughts about the 1992 NLCS, talking about, well, we don't like this guy named Sid Bream, so. A lot of piss and vinegar 22 years after the fact from this cabbie. But, I must say he was a champion on the kind of slushy road. So he made us to the hotel safely. And then I encountered death, as I'm sure Justin will talk about in a little bit.
All right, Brad, you want to go or do you want me to? Should I carry right off from that?
Well, my story is real quick. So I drove in. It's about a 5-hour drive. And the whole day was like timing on like if we could get in before, because we were going to originally meet Kevin Kelly in the afternoon prior to the Ring of Honor show. So the whole thing was like avoiding the storm in the east because it was like coming up the coast, but getting into the middle part of the state before I had to hit the storm in Pittsburgh. So, the last 50 miles or so, we ran into a winter storm, but the roads weren't awful. And I made it in probably like 1:30-ish, and then I, put our stuff in the room, and I quickly went down to the floor where you guys were, and I also encountered death.
Is that my cue?
That's your cue.
All right, so Roger, Andy, and I kicked things off Friday night with a trip to Boneheads, of course, the great Boneheads. Had dinner there. Came back. We showed Roger some of the matches he's missed in his 15 years off as a wrestling fan. I didn't know where to start, but we watched Brock Lesnar versus John Cena from last year's Extreme Rules, as well as Floyd Mayweather versus Big Show. Tried to ease him in with some boxing MMA style matches to get him fired up. So Saturday morning we woke up at the early time of around, I think, 4:30 and headed over to the airport. Andy and I had the same flight. Roger was on a different one, and we were on the tiny planes. So no issues on the flight. We got right through security, flew into Newark, hung out there for a bit, got on the plane again, and then about halfway through the Newark flight, I got a little unsettling in my stomach. And I'm thinking, oh, well, I ate kind of a lot of boneheads. I probably just got to, take care of business. I'll be good to go. And as the flight kept going, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse to the point where I was sitting in the seat just like rocking back and forth like 1996 Mankind or something. Like I was like ready to rip my hair out of my head. I just could not even fucking stand it. So we get off the plane, and because we're on the little one, we had checked our bags on the jetway. So instead of waiting, I just gave Anna my ticket and like ran to the bathroom. So I did that, came back out. I'm like, all right, feel a little bit better. Get to our cab. Cab driver looks like Adam Murray, but that's cool. He drives us to the hotel. We get out there. We check in. I barely walk in the room, and I'm like, this ain't going well. So Andy went to have a smoke, and I went to the toilet and proceeded to vomit my brains out. So I figured that was it. I figured whatever was bugging me is out. I'll be ready to go. I lay down, put on the TV. Fox Sports 1 is on in the room. Very excited because that was part of our plan. Watch a PC game. Everyone's going to come hang out, have some drinks. About a half hour later, I was back in the bathroom, and about an hour after that, about 40 minutes after that, and it proceeded to march on through the afternoon to the point where I could not even get out of bed. I was shivering. My legs were aching. I was not feeling good at all. I couldn't keep anything down. Poor Andy. I had him run him up and down to 7-Eleven, getting me Gatorade and crackers and everything else. Pepto-Bismol, and just nothing could settle me down. So you guys all hung out with me to watch a PC game, which sucked because it was a great win, and I barely remember any of it. Like, I was so out of it, and you guys know me. If I'm not into a PC game, something's seriously wrong. I couldn't even focus on it, and I think I even fell asleep at points. So you guys left at, what time did you guys leave the room, maybe like 2:30 or so to head down to the restaurant?
Yeah, probably about that.
That sounds about right. I came in and just, you couldn't even form words. You were just swaddled like in the bed. I was like, what the hell's up with this guy?
He was
Swaddled.
He looked like an old woman, like in the fetal position. You came in, you were like, oh, hey, and he's like,
I felt bad. I wanted to give Chad such a hug when I saw him, and I couldn't even fucking move. I'm like, this is awful. I'm like, of all fucking weekends to get sick, right? Not the other weekends where I'm just home all the time. It's going to be the weekend I'm in Pittsburgh on this trip. And the amazing part is it didn't hit me like on the plane to the point where I had to throw up. Like, that would have been terrible. I'm so glad I waited till at least I got to the hotel. So you guys took off around 2:30, and I was just done. I could not. At one point, I went and I was collapsed on the bathroom floor. And I'm like, it was like Almost Famous or something. Like, they're going to come in and think I'm fucking OD'd. I'm like in my underwear and a t-shirt on the floor. Just praying that I'm not going to shit my pants. But it was just brutal. And by the end, I was just completely had nothing left. I was just complete dry. I just nothing left inside. So
you haven't really experienced. You kind of realize the scope of our friendship. Where at one point Justin goes into the bathroom and pukes, and me and the Cowboy and Andy and Mark Poirier, I think, were in the room, and we just kind of looked at each other while all we can hear is Justin like completely puking.
And I didn't give a fuck
in
who
the
was
bathroom.
There. And I was a little disappointed. No one yelled he's gonna puke. I was waiting for it. I'm like, someone's gonna say this. So
Did you hear us talk about how we thought Andy poisoned you? Don't you think Andy has a face of someone that could
it's definitely possible.
Poison in your drink?
It's definitely possible.
Kind of has a mischievous look like that, yeah.
Well, I was thinking, who did I piss off? What was it? And then, we went through how many options. First I thought maybe it was Boneheads, but Andy and I ate, and I hate to even think about that, I even slandered them for a moment, but Andy and I ate the same exact meal, right down to we split a sandwich. So I'm like, there's no way that, he said he didn't feel great, but I'm like, there's no way I got this sick and he didn't, when we literally ate everything the same. There was nothing different. So the only thing different was I had a hot chocolate in Newark. So I'm like, maybe there was spoiled milk in the hot chocolate. I couldn't think of anything else, because the reason I thought that was I finally fell asleep. Andy texted me at 4 and said you guys were leaving the hotel to go out. And I'm like, there's no way, I'm dead. So I finally fell asleep because I could not fall asleep before that. And I woke up at 5:30, and all of a sudden I felt way better. I woke up, I didn't feel great, but I felt I didn't feel like I was going to be sick anymore. I wasn't really shivering. So I'm thinking it had to be food poisoning, because no bug is going to go through you in 8 hours and be gone. So I think Willie texted me. One of you guys texted me saying, hey, do you think you're going to make it down to Ring of Honor? We're going to be heading over soon. And at first I was like, no, there's no way. And I talked to my parents, and my mom's like, to stay in and rest for tomorrow. And I feel like I was like 17. I like lied to her. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. And then, of course, I texted you guys. I'm like, I gotta go because I really wanted to see Kevin. And I'm like, if I came all this way, I'm not just gonna lay. And the prospect of it only being 5:30, and I'm like, what am I gonna do all fucking night long in this hotel room? Like, this is nothing to do on my own. So I gathered myself. Took me about an hour, but I somehow pulled myself together to shower and get ready. And I made Andy come back to the hotel to get me because I'm like, you don't want me trying to figure out where to go because I had no energy. I just was on zero. I hadn't eaten or anything. So I went down to 7-Eleven, bought myself some Ritz crackers that I smuggled into Ring of Honor, and Andy and I walked over and met you. And I was glad I went. I was very happy because we had a great time. So, Chad, you want to kind of talk about our experience early on at Ring of Honor?
Well, just a quick anecdote too about the hotel room experience was I also enjoyed like how miserable you were. We had the PC cheerleader himself, like Roger. I don't know if you even noticed this because you were like drifting in and out of consciousness, but I mean you were like doing groans of agony and. You know, like Roger would be like, "Oh, great boards, huh?" They're, you know, like adding his little snippets on the basketball game, which was good. And then the afternoon, I guess we can give. We'll just say that the cowboy rode again, and we also saw a Sears family portrait-esque shot from Mr. Flanagan. So. Yes. That was a highlight, I know, for me and Brad.
And we should also talk about we had Mr. D'Amato was with us, and also Mr. Poirier was with us for the afternoon. So, and for those out there concerned, thinking what a bunch of assholes, we did consider taking Justin to the hospital, and we were prepared to do that, but
who did?
Okay,
he was on his own.
I mean, there was one point where I almost called you and said I need to go because I felt like. I'm literally just going to die on this floor. Like, I was asking for death at one point, I think. I was just like, this is not worth living going on like this. It was awful. I mean, it was really that bad. Like, it was just brutal. I've rarely been that sick in my life, maybe one other time. And I still don't know how I miraculously recovered. It was like the PTB gods were smiling on me because... J.R. D'Amato lifted his hand and healed me because by 5:30 I felt way better and I could not believe it passed that. I mean, I was worried I wasn't gonna even make it to the Rumble. Like that's how bad it was. Like around like 2:00. I'm like, my weekend is shot. I was thinking I was gonna have to stay in Pittsburgh another day because I'd be fucking too wrecked to ride home on Monday. So yeah, let's give the roll call of who was there with us into Ring of Honor.
Okay, so Ring of Honor was me, Brad, Mike. And then Doug joined us at Ring of Honor.
And we should say who these people are. So Mike and Doug were Brad's friends that came in.
Right.
Brad's lackeys, Mike and Doug, and then Andy, Justin, and Roger. Your main crew there. And then we had Steve Willie.
Yes.
The Willie man. He saved about 12 seats for us at Ring of Honor.
Herculean effort.
He was the biggest heel. He was the big heel at Ring of Honor by saving all these seats. It was him and 80-year-old grandma were the only two people on a row there.
And Jason Hartman.
And Jason Hartman was there. And then Mark Poirier also was with us throughout the afternoon. And, of course, the Godfather himself, J.R. D'Amato. Is that everybody?
Oh, and we also saw Mr. Kristoff was there.
That's
as
right.
well as Mr. Holland. So
yep, they came in with their kids. And Mark Claire and his buddy, who I don't think I ever get the guy's name. What's
his lackeys.
How come every time somebody flies in from California on a PTB trip, there's always like a mysterious friend?
They kind of looked like Grant's friend.
It did.
He did. Well, he acted like Grant's friend too. Like I could not imagine in the world me telling like one of my friends that you're going on a wrestling trip, essentially with me. But
Claire, but I thought Claire's fan was a wrestling fan. No.
I don't know. Honestly, he was the most mysterious. I never talked to him.
I'm pretty sure he was a wrestling fan. I thought he seemed to know what he was talking about the few times I heard him. So they came in. what, like 20 minutes late or something, and we're already drunk, I think.
It was like intermission, and Claire was double fisting.
I think it's important to note Mark Claire's adventure that day included a flight to Chicago, then a delayed flight to Cleveland, and then driving in from Cleveland to Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Well, yeah, he sent us like the text message at 3:30. And the Ring of Honor show was a 7:30 start, and he was like, "I'm in Chicago. It doesn't look like I'm gonna make it." We were like, "Well, what the hell? How long is this flight?" But yeah, so we had to take a bus, ride a bicycle, crawl into the entrance. But and I will say with Claire, like if you look at the Ring of Honor crowd, and then you look at somebody like Claire coming in, he's pretty easy to pick out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm surprised fans didn't think it was Chris Hero walking in because it looked like it. I think we can safely say he was drunk or drinking from when he walked in Ring of Honor until when we saw him disappear into the Marriott Sunday night. He was drinking. And I'm sad because
less than 2 beers. Yes.
I have not seen Mark Claire since 2005. And we were I was so excited to hang out and drink with him and like we used to, and I just couldn't do it. I mean, I could say I was completely sober the whole weekend. I thought this was going to be like my cheat weekend. I lost 5 pounds on this trip. A guy's trip with wrestling shows and drinking and eating, and I lost 5 pounds somehow.
You can't keep up with Claire, though.
Oh, I was
on another level.
No, you're right. I mean, I would have tapped out a lot quicker. But I had told him I was going to do my best to hang with him. I was gonna hung and bung with him, but I could not do it. So I think we caught every. Yeah. I think that's everyone, right?
Yeah, I think that's everyone on Saturday.
Yep.
Okay. So Ring of Honor was pretty good. We had good seats, premium seating. ACH, we get to hear.
I don't know about the venue. I don't know.
It was very similar to the Providence venue, but the Providence one was a little more friendly.
Yeah, I like the stadium seat. I mean, that was one of the main reasons I really liked watching the show at the Hammerstein on WrestleMania weekend. That's a whole nother class of venues, but I mean, if you didn't, besides the guy that was mooning me and Scott in front of us, I mean, if you didn't want to stand up, you didn't necessarily have to stand up, and throughout this show, there was a lot of action on the outside that, I mean, I'm over 6 feet tall, and I couldn't see anything once they went to the outside.
Which is weird because in Providence, Brad, I liked that setting.
Yeah, I did too. I like the convention center. There's a lot of room to walk around. You're not, smelling 500 other dudes. You're not on top of each other. You can casually walk back and grab a beer. So it was cool to be in that again. But, Chad, you're right. I mean, much like, a regular show that people stand up, you got to stand up behind. There were times we had to stand up to barely see what was going on outside the ring.
Well, a big difference too in Providence, we ended up standing over by the gate or by the entranceway for half the show. So I think we weren't for the beginning, the first taping we sat, but once that ended, we had longer matches I think in Providence too. So there wasn't as much up and down. There was a lot of more in-ring action. So but anyway, for this show, the venue was interesting, but and some of the surrounding fans are very interesting as well, which we'll get to.
Bruno Sammartino's wife was there. I'm not sure where Bruno was, but I've never seen...
Was she really?
That was the old lady in your row. Remember you just talked about her?
Oh, yeah. That's well, Willie texted me. He was like, I'm sitting next to the stunt grandma. And I was like, what is he talking about?
I'm not exaggerating. This lady was at least 85 years old and asleep at the end of the row. I'm not sure who she was there with, but it was maybe her grandson was wrestling or something. But it was crazy. I've never seen
Hanson was her grandson.
Hanson was
And right off the bat, the longest-running ROH joke at PTB kicked off as ACH came out with Tadarius Thomas. They defeated Jimmy Jacobs and BJ Whitmer. Had Roddy Strong at ringside with them. Pretty good opener, I thought.
Well, wait a minute. No, they lost to Jimmy Jacobs and BJ Whitmer.
This fucking website. What a shit website. DailyWrestlingNews.com.
Come on.
Get your shit. Bob Critties, get your shit right.
Yeah, and that was a pretty good opener, I thought too. I mean, BJ and Jimmy are of course the newly minted stable,
right?
So kind of expected them to get a win there, ACH, I mean, he's over with the crowd. He's a guy I know once, Roddy pulled out. I was kind of angling, hoping for him with Paul London. And I would like to see him, I think, get into more singles actions and get a chance to really shine in singles action in ROH.
I agree. Thomas is okay, but nothing. I don't think anything special. I've never really been into Whitmer. I like this faction because I like Roddy and I like the concept of it. So maybe I like Whitmer better in the heel role, but I had not enjoyed him during the year. I've been watching Ring of Honor in the face role. So he seems like more of a better douchebag heel. So
yeah, I mean, with the faction of those three guys, it's kind of three guys that have kind of went through the gambit, so they didn't have a ton else for them to do, so they sort of merged them together. I guess we'll see how it goes, but it's pretty odd to see BJ Whitmer and Jimmy Jacobs team together just because of the heated rivalry they have with each other. So I guess, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see, because that was one of the big kind of things coming out of Final Battle was them teaming up. But I mean, on this show, this was the opening match, and they did get a win, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was anything spectacular.
Right.
So I guess we'll see what they do at the anniversary show and going forward with the faction.
They and I agree, and I like the concept of it. They call the decade, the three guys who've been there 10 years, and see all these other guys come in and get pushed over them. So let's go to match number 2, which was the finals of the Top Prospect Tournament. Hansen, to the delight of Mark Poirier, defeated Ray Rowe. Brad, what did you think of Hansen in this one?
Yeah, so going in, I had read Steve Willie's preview, and I had read a little bit about Ray Rowe, so I knew he was a pretty good, tough guy, and it was a good match. They threw a lot of power moves on each other, and then they won with like the weakest back spin kick of all time. It was like the most deflating 3 count ever to win the Prospect Tournament, but he had a good look though with big beard, and we got to meet him a little bit later on, as I'm sure you'll say. So I thought it was all right. Yeah, I mean, I
thought Ray Rowe's been pretty good. I've enjoyed him on the few TV matches I've seen and this one live, but I like Hansen. I just like my kind of guy. So I was happy he won. I was surprised he won actually too. I thought this tournament had Ray Rowe written all over it, but I think he'll be around too. I think they'll end up signing him and keeping him. Chad, you want to tell us the Hansen anecdote? I know it came later, but
yeah, during intermission, we were chatting with Kevin, which we'll talk about. But Mark Poirier, God bless him, and I will add he was rocking his rock and roller Prince Devitt shirt throughout the evening, which brought great delight to me, as you might imagine, and everybody else thought it was the Rock and Roll Express shirt, which also delighted me. But he was just over the moon for Hansen, really over with him, kind of quoting. I guess Brian Alvarez quoted a match between Hansen and Congo. He would pay. What was it, $49.95 to see a match?
No, $54.99.
$54.99 to see a match with Congo and Hansen. So Mark was telling anybody that would listen this little anecdote, and then he got to meet Hansen, and it was. I don't even know if Jordan Duncan's kids or Kersofi's kids when they met some of the.
Poirier was just gushing.
Mean, it was sheer delight at meeting Hansen.
Yes,
so he shook his hand. Once again, told him that he would offer Alvarez would offer him $54.99. We have some photographic evidence of Poirier just marking out, and it was one of my highlights of the weekend. I greatly enjoyed it.
We pulled some PTBN strings.
That's right.
Right. We were talking to Kevin. He's like, "You want to see Hansen?" He walked right back, brought him out, and I actually was able to take about 6 pictures of Mark, and it was good to see Mark again. This is we saw Mark in Providence, Justin.
Yes.
He was a little under the weather for some bad food also. And so he had rebounded very nicely this time around.
Yeah,
so
he looked good. He's been working out a little bit. He was
good to see him again.
ready to go.
He's usually my translator for these events. So so actually later on when Kyle O'Reilly came out, I looked back to him and said, "That's Kyle O'Reilly." He nodded along with me. So
that was one of the most annoying things at this Ring of Honor show. So
that was Brad asking every fucking question.
Well, we had two rows. Me and Justin were sitting next to each other. Poirier was probably like 3 seats down from Justin.
Actually, I think it was one over, right? It was Willie and then Poirier, I think.
Well, okay, so Willie and Poirier, but Brad was like directly in front of me. So instead of asking A, the person that watches a lot of the product, or B, the person that writes about the product every week on a website,
he runs, by the way.
That he runs. He decides to boom over all of us and kind of big time us and be like, "Who is this guy, Mark?" And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
That's because we had continuity. I told you going in. Honestly, that only happened like once or twice. So.
No. There's no way that happened only twice. Either that or it happened in my nightmares for the past week.
Even in my blinding sickness, the one joke I was able to make was the Rock and Roll Express t-shirt. Although I really thought it was a Rock and Roll Express t-shirt. I didn't realize it was Prince Devitt. All right, so card continues. Mike Bennett defeated Romantic Touch, just kind of there. Tommaso Ciampa defeated Jay Lethal and Matt Taven, which I really enjoyed that one. I thought Taven, to me, that was the most impressive matches I've seen of him. Did you guys agree?
Well, yeah, so Taven kind of dropped Truth before the match, so it seems like he's kind of venturing out on his own. And I mean, I'm never a big fan of 3-ways, both in real life and in wrestling life, but this one,
I think that's all your cred.
There's
like
our opener.
It's like
Saturday seemed to. I don't know. It's not the text I was getting.
Oh man, but this I did think that Taven to me was the standout of this match, and I thought he looked really good. And he's another guy that's going to be interesting to see what happens to him, because I don't think he'll be regaining the TV title at any point in time in the future. But it's kind of going to be interesting to see where they place him, where they spot him on the card. I could see maybe a little feud with him and Hanson could be fun, him bumping around for somebody like that. So I look forward to it.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think Taven's a guy I've been waiting for things to click with, so I'm hoping they finally do. So now, was the break here, or was it after Cedric?
It was after the 3-way.
Okay, yeah. So we finally, I texted Kevin. I said, "Do you want to meet after the show, or can we meet now?" And I was really happy. He said, "Let's meet now." So we went over and met him by the merchandise table. He was signing some autographs and taking some pictures, and we went over, and he was really excited that we were all there. It was really cool to get to introduce everyone to him. I like how he brought the whole crew over. And one of the greatest moments was a guy actually came up to him in front of us and said how much he loved his podcast. Just randomly, just came up and said, "Oh, I really loved the podcast. I can't wait to hear the next one." And Kevin introduced him to me, and it was really cool to meet like an actual fan out of the blue like that. So, kind of like when Creepers came up to our, WrestleMania tailgate and just introduced themselves to us.
That was your gushing moment, like Poirier's earlier in the night when that happened.
It was
deservedly
really
so. Deservedly so. It was that was very cool.
Oh,
and then also took a picture and we got photobombed.
Yes, I was about to say we haven't mentioned Fat Mark Sanchez yet.
Who actually sat behind me in the Royal Rumble, which was interesting.
Fat Mark Sanchez. We saw this kid like all over Ring of Honor. Every time I turned around, he was sitting there with this creepy smile on his face. And then he photobombs us in the Kevin picture. And then I'm looking at like photos of Ring of Honor on some website or something. I forgot the hell what website it was. And it's like a wide shot, and he's standing up in the picture. I'm like, this fucking guy. He's everywhere.
Between him and Brad's Philly friend that kept doing the triple threat sign the whole night, or the Cena that would not stop yelling. Quite the Ring of Honor crowd, as you might expect.
That's a
you're
good
big
point.
boy.
Yeah. We somebody had asked too, like, were there a lot of out of towners? And earlier that afternoon, when Chad and I were in the restaurant having a couple beers pre-show, a whole group of like of guys came in, including this guy decked out in old school Eagles, like late 80s Buddy Ryan gear. And he was, by the time we got to Ring of Honor, he'd been drinking as hard as we had, and he was out of control, fighting with his friends. Then it had gotten to that point. It was really awesome. So yeah, he was making the the triple threat.
And the best part was, like, it was not, 30 minutes before Andy was talking about how much he hates, like, the shitty, colorful graphics on hats nowadays. And then this guy came in with, like, the most gaudy Philadelphia Eagles hat you've ever seen in your life. It had a huge eagle mark on it. It was the green color, so that was humorous. But this guy would not sit down. He was out of control. Him and Fat Mark Sanchez ran the show there.
And that woman who kept running up to the railing, and she looked pissed at us at one point. I don't know what the fuck was going on. D'Amato kept making faces at her.
She did. She was very excited at certain points and would, like, charge up to the guardrail in the entranceway, but then would retreat after whatever happened. So
it was definitely interesting, that's for sure.
Quite a crew.
So yeah, really cool to meet Kevin, or to get to see Kevin again, for you guys to meet him. So back to the show. Cedric Alexander defeated Andrew Everett, and this was the match that was supposed to be Roddy Strong and Paul London, and Roddy got hurt. It was supposed to be Paul London and Cedric, and then London's flight was fucked up because of the snow, couldn't make it in, so we got Andrew Everett instead, and this match was probably the match of the night.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are in a tough spot. So, I mean, because when you go from London versus Strong, 2 out of 3 falls for a world title shot, to this match, you're going to naturally have a little bit of groans, and I mean, they really went for broke out there. I mean, there were some crazy spots. I think Everett especially kind of really asserted himself. He did a diving shooting star press to the outside. Was doing a lot of very good high flying moves. So, I mean, this match was a straight spot fest, which stylistic is not generally my favorite match, but for those types of kind of like an 8 to 10 minute go for broke spot fest with some crazy spots, and really a spot where the crowd could have turned against these two guys really quickly based on the match changes, and they were able to not only keep the crowd into it but win them over by the end. I thought they did a commendable job.
I mean, I will say this with the crowd, as many weirdos as there were and about the venue. I mean, it was a pretty hot crowd, and I thought they were pretty respectful overall. We didn't get like any "you fucked up" or any stupid chants like that. Like, they were all really into the show, which was cool to see.
And they drew really well. They had over 1,000 people there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we didn't get. I think my least favorite chant is the wrestling yay chant. I absolutely despise that, and luckily we didn't get that chant any.
I like the big running joke after the show became, what if we did this at every sporting event?
That may be one for the PTB in YouTube pages. I'm gonna go to a baseball game and just randomly chant like, "This is baseball," and then do the clap, or like when someone makes an error, start going like, "You fucked up," or
just go to
it's a home run. Holy shit!
I want to see Scott go to church and bang on the pew. "This is mass."
Time for the gospel. Oh, jeez.
This is baseball.
That became a good running. That became a good running joke. All right, Kevin Steen defeated Kyle O'Reilly. I like Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish as a team. O'Reilly he just looked to be working really soft in this match. Like, his kicks and punches, and nothing looked good up close. They did the usual Steen comedy spots throughout, and the nastiest part was when Steen put O'Reilly's mouth guard in his own mouth. That was fucking disgusting. So Steen ended up winning. Cliff Compton came out. They had more of a brawl than expected. I thought they were going to tease it and then fight in the future, but they had a big brawl. And Steen getting put through a table, and Compton, I thought Compton looked pretty good here, actually. He got some good heat on himself. So a fun segment with a good brawl. And that led to the main event where Chris Hero, Michael Elgin defeated the Briscoes and Adam Cole and Matt Hardy, when Hero pinned Cole to earn a world title shot and wrap up the evening. The main event was pretty good. Not the best match of the night. Hardy is a character I've enjoyed on TV in the limited spurts I've seen him, he did not look that good in person. Like, I was surprised. I thought he had really got himself into shape. I couldn't believe this how not in shape he looked.
And I'll tell you what, for a 1,000-person crowd, Chris Hero's introduction was really, really tepid.
Yeah.
Like, I was almost like felt bad for him.
Yeah.
And it really didn't heat up during the show either. And and I was really surprised too that they had Cole take the fall for that, because he could have pinned Matt Hardy to earn the title shot.
No, I thought they had to pin Cole.
Oh, is that what it was?
I
they
think
had
so.
to pin him together.
Yeah.
Wow.
They had to pin Cole.
And I know they changed the stip, like, so obviously the Alexander Everett winner didn't have the title shot, and they added that
right
to that, before the match. So it did add some stakes to it. I didn't mind the main event. I thought it was pretty good, but
yeah, it was. I mean, I'm a tough judge on that one only because I was so fucking wiped out by that point. I had like zero. I was just ready to go before the match even started because I was just on empty. But like I don't know if any match on this night would have been top 3 on the Providence show.
yeah, no, the Providence show was so much better.
Providence show was stacked. I mean, we got the Forever Hooligans match. We got the All Stars versus Champions. And there's a third really good one in there somewhere. We got those 2 really good tournament matches too.
Yeah, and then there was, I think it was the Cole versus Mark Briscoe match.
Yeah, that was good.
And they had a couple tournament ones in there.
But overall, always a fun experience. I mean, for the money you pay or comped, it's always worth going to check out. And this show, which I appreciated that night, was not as long. Like the Providence show was like fucking 4 hours. This show was what, maybe just under 3, I think.
Yeah, I think they only taped 2 episodes of TV, where they were like 3 when we were there.
I think there were 4 when we were there. I think they did a whole month.
There was 4 at the Providence. They did do 3 at the show we went to.
Wow.
But I don't think the main event. I think that's going to be a DVD only.
Okay.
Because they announced that like O'Reilly Steen match was the main event of the last taping.
Okay.
But it was probably like 3 hours of actually bell time. The intermission, I think they can condense.
We talked about that with
in.
Kevin that one time. It was long. I mean, it was like we had to be talking to him for at least 10 minutes. You know what I mean? And then we got back and it still wasn't over yet.
Yeah, it was probably like a half hour. I think that's fair to say. It was close to a half hour intermission. So if they could bump down the intermission to about 15 minutes, I think that would be good, because I will say with the main event, it probably deserves a rewatch for me just because, I mean, like Justin said, I was running on empty by that point. It was probably about 11, and I'd been up since 5:30 in the morning or whatever, so I didn't have a lot of energy left.
I mean, the only thing I can think of with the long intermission is them just prepping the TV stuff, but also, they live and die by their merch, so I'm guessing they want to leave as much as possible time.
Right, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks because when you're there, it's just like, all right. I mean, if we didn't go meet Kevin, I don't know what the hell we would have done. Like, that would have been a really long intermission just to be sitting there. I know I felt that way in Providence, so I was like, all right, let's get going. So,
well, they could at least just have. I mean, even if, even something going on. I mean, like at
bullshit
the
match
TNA,
or whatever.
Well, I mean, at the TNA shows, you have what's his face coming out there to shield the merchandise. So,
well, they could throw out a tryout, like a match between 2 guys that aren't really whatever, the up and comers or something. Let them wrestle for 15 minutes. At least something. You don't have to tape it or have the commentary out there, or just have a ref and 2 guys going at it. All right, so we left Ring of Honor, and some of us, or some of you, weren't ready to let the night end, even though I was done. We went over to what was that place? The Tavern, something Tavern.
Well, the first place we went to was I will say, like, downtown Pittsburgh has a lot of, seems like, very hoity-toity, high-class, like, bar, quasi-restaurants.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have a restaurant called Ceviche. You have, like, a restaurant called Sonoma. So you can imagine the look on some of the locals' faces where we went into this place where people were wearing suit jackets and I was wearing my Macho Man purple T-shirt. That did not stop Claire from quickly taking a Irish car bomb at the bar.
He met some random people asking him where we should go, and then he was down in car bombs.
Yeah,
He was
and we had a couple pictures, and that was like in the 10 minutes we were at this place.
No. I'm talking about the
pictures
first
are later.
place, Brad.
Oh, okay, go
The
ahead.
place
Yeah.
we just stood in the thing.
Yep.
I wanted to just lay on Andy in that place. I was so fucking exhausted.
There's like 15 of us just like standing up right next to this huge wine collection of like exquisite wines of wrestling fans. So after Claire downed his Irish car bomb, we quickly realized we were not welcome here because like no hostess or anybody even like acknowledged our existence in this place. So we went to, I think it was called, August Henry's?
Yeah, so August Henry's down the street. And that was more of just a bar.
Like a little dive kind of place.
Yeah, and they had like a food buffet set up that was obviously there for a party with a lot of food out, but the guy wouldn't let anyone eat it. Right? Because I think Roger...
Right, the kitchen was closed because we were hungry.
Right. Yeah, who asked? Roger or someone? Someone asked the guy.
We all hedged. Like the kitchen was closed, and they had a huge. And I will say this is another little anecdote. I did not know what a pierogi. Am I pronouncing that correctly,
Yes,
Brad?
you are pronouncing it correctly.
Okay. I did not know what a pierogi was until Saturday afternoon, but now my life has changed, and I'm on the hunt in Georgia for some pierogies. And they had some pierogies on this buffet along with some hot wings and other stuff, but I never could figure out exactly what the function was that this food was catered for because it was a really odd collection of like kind of biker guys and Terry Runnels lookalikes and just a random assortment. But there was a lot of food left, but the guy was...
They rather throw it out than fucking let us have it seemed like.
Yeah. They were literally taking it to the back, and, Roger was like, we may have to make a move. So he was getting a little antsy there.
Yeah, he was hungry, and so the guy's like, well, you can order pizza and have it delivered here. And in the meantime, Claire had gone up and got a couple pictures, like you said, and you guys were all having a beer. And so there's a lot of debating. Should you guys order pizza? Wait, and I'm like, no. I'm not gonna fucking make it. There's no way. And so you guys all decided, hey, let's just head back. We'll order the pizzas on the way, and then or in the lobby, and then just have them delivered there. So that's what we ended up doing. So we started walking back, and it was cold as a motherfucker Saturday night there. And for someone whose blood was very thin and unenriched at that point, I was like ready to be frozen to the sidewalk. I look over, Andy's limping like Bret Hart had his knee kicked out. It was like hobbling up the sidewalk. So Brad was nice enough to hail us a cab and save us. And the guy was pretty cool. I like that guy. He just took us $5 flat charge, and that was it. We were at the hotel, and thank God. So you guys ordered your pizzas.
Yeah, we passed that weird warehouse with like a strobe light.
Oh,
I still don't know what the hell was going on. I don't know if that was a rave or what.
Yeah.
Do we legitimately think that was a rave?
I think it was. I think it was an alarm going off. That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But it was very creepy because we were kind of on a side street. But yeah, so we get back to the lobby. We order our pizzas. We have everything figured out. And then in a true D'Amato fashion, like the pizzas are delivered, and then like out of the blue, here comes a 10 spot from D'Amato for his share of the pizza that we didn't know he was splitting. But so we got D'Amato in, and I mean we devoured that pizza, Brad. There was nothing left. Yeah,
I couldn't even. We go back to our room, and Andy and Roger were eating, and I don't even remember going to bed. I was just like passed out while they were eating, like just sitting up talking and eating pizza. And then I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm going to fall asleep because I know my best friend in the world, Mr. Flanagan, snores like a fucking lumberjack cutting wood while pissing off an angry dragon that had a stuffy nose or something. It's really fucking bad. And so I'm like, oh, I just need to fall asleep before he does. And I did. But I woke up around 1:30 because the fucking Frankie Valli was singing on the TV. They had like the hits of the 70s CD or some shit. It was like blasting. And I'm like, no, because I wake up and I hear. I'm like, oh, I am fucked. So it took about 2 hours for me to get to bed. And I was just tossing and turning. I was so freaking tired. And I was so looking forward to getting like 10 hours of sleep because I just needed it. And I knew we didn't have any kind of rush on Sunday. But I ended up getting an okay night's sleep. So we wake up Sunday. Brad lies and tells us there's a free breakfast buffet or some shit. So I somehow drag my ass together because I'm like, I should go get something. We walk all the way down there. And the guy's like, do you guys want the buffet or the menu? And Roger's like, we'll take the buffet. So I said, and the guy's like, I'm like, well, is it free? He didn't say free. So Andy asked me, he's like, no, it's $16. So I'm like, I'm out. So I just turned, because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to eat $16 worth of food. Like, I barely keep toast down that Andy got me. And the best part, too, he went to get me toast, and the guy must have known something was up, because Andy said the guy looked so, he just felt bad, you could tell, so he gave him the toast for free, because he said...
Well,
So
I
the look of sorrow in his
apologize. I
eyes.
was misinformed because my buddy Mike, and I guess he's like a gold member there. He was like, oh, the buffet's free, but you got to pay if you want the hot stuff. So we had paid for like the little upgrade on it, but I was...
It was $4 for our upgrade.
for us. But he told me that the regular breakfast... Actually, no, the lady at the front desk had said it, but maybe it was just for him.
Well, you had to have the vouchers. You had to have the little card.
See, I fucked this whole thing up because I didn't even realize DoubleTree was with... Actually, I think I booked this before I signed up, because through work I ended up getting in the Hilton Honors. And,
you could have got the vouchers then.
You missed out.
And I probably could have gotten the concierge. Did they have a concierge lounge there? Was that on the Honors level? Because I saw there was like a floor that was Hilton Honors floor. I didn't know if there was a concierge lounge in there.
Yeah, we were sipping champagne and having caviar.
I blew it all. So anyway... so I ate my toast, and that was it. We showered, and we were ready to head out for the day. So why don't we take a quick breather here? We'll come back, and we'll talk about the show itself.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
What's up, everybody? This is Kevin Kelly from Ring of Honor Wrestling. Make sure you check out The Kevin Kelly Show each and every week. PlaceToBeNation.com. We'll be talking about wrestling in the past and wrestling today. Plus, be talking about all kinds of sports and pop culture, whatever's on your mind, too. We'll answer your questions each and every week. The Kevin Kelly Show, right here, PlaceToBeNation.com.
What's that?
Chad, do you hate it when commercials run and run?
What do you mean, Parv?
Oh, never mind.
Listen to Where the Big Boys Play on PlaceToBeNation.com and find us on iTunes. We are the only WCW Supercard exclusive podcast.
Hey, this is Rob Naylor. Do you still enjoy pro wrestling? Believe it or not, I still do. So you better join myself and Will on the Google Wrestling Podcast exclusively at PlaceToBeNation.com.
Shit, I wasn't ready. Hey, this is Will. If you like listening and... Shit. Hey, this is Will. If you like listening to guys talk about old school wrestling, follow me and Charles on Wrestling with the Past podcast on Place to Be Nation.
So you got the script, yeah? You all got it?
Yeah.
Oh, this sounds terrible. The Titans of Wrestling... Oh, brilliant. Sorry. The Titans of Wrestling are...
Pete, I'm a lead analyst for the show. I break down matches.
Kelly, lead historian. I'm a jobber lover. Are you?
Johnny and I drink.
And yes, me, Parv. We watch old school wrestling and love it.
Titans of Wrestling. You know you want to hear it.
What's going on? This is the Godfather, Nate Milton, with an offer you cannot refuse. Each and every week you can join Marcus Vanderberg, Big Nasty Alfred Kunawa, and myself on the Kings of Sport podcast, available exclusively on PlaceToBeNation.com, your one-stop spot for the best in sports and pop culture.
What's your one-stop home for your pop culture needs? Of course, PlaceToBeNation.com. We have everything you could ask for when it comes to pop culture. Now first, wrestling. We're definitely your hookup for all show recaps, including Raw, SmackDown, Impact, Ring of Honor, all of WWE's other programs as well. We have previews, live blogs, breakdowns for all WWE and UFC pay-per-views. You want sports? No problem. Place to Be Nation has extensive articles on football, basketball, MMA, boxing, and baseball. From Andrew Reish's history lessons to the return of the hack to the Cowboys call, we have the best in comprehensive sports knowledge and opinions. With a loaded staff of hardcore pop culture writers, we also specialize in comics, TV, music, movie pieces. Of course, you can't forget Jen and Justin's journey through the 90s. You want podcasts? Well, look no further than Place to Be Nation, the home for the best catalog and variety of shows you'll find anywhere on the net. There's the Place to Be Podcast, where the big boys play, the Brad and Chad Show, Wrestling with the Past, Titans of Wrestling, Goodwill Wrestling, Richard and the Mailman, Grapple Talk, and the Kings of Sport with our good friend Nate Milton. I want to take a second to thank our supporters and ask you to check out their great sites. Graham Cawthon and the History of WWE.com, a complete archive of wrestling shows throughout history. Also our friend Dave at TWFnews.com, your home for wrestling news updates and great conversation. Also check out PileDriverWrestling.net for all the latest wrestling news and the home of the great Old School Wrestling Review podcast and much more. And while you're at it, If you want to chat with fellow fans about wrestling's past and present, check out Scott Keith's blog at rspwfaq.com. So for everything you need, your pop culture fix, check out PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in the pop culture world.
Hello, everybody. This is Bruno Lauer. I'm on the Place to Be. You're listening to the Place to Be podcast. You know why? Because it's like Mama says, it be that way sometimes.
Well, I met this lady and I told her quite a story. Said I love her forevermore. But the trouble is I tell the same old story to every girl that walks through the door. You see the slick start talking at you, honey.
All right, Nation, we are back. Hope you enjoyed that break. Of course, we'll direct you over to PlaceToBeNation.com. You can check out all the great pieces and a lot of good stuff. We have a Super Bowl preview coming this weekend and all kinds of other great articles and reviews and recaps. And check it out. So, we left you last early Sunday morning. We caught up with Mark Claire and found out he was out till 4 in the morning, Chad, Mr. Mark Claire. So this guy had been up at like 5:30, but I guess that was West Coast time, right? So it was 8:30, but still he had the jet lag mixed in there. So, but him and his buddy hit the town on Saturday.
Yeah, it was like the Ric Flair of Place to Be Nation is Mark Claire. I mean, on the South Side, going to some very interesting places, as he would describe in vivid detail.
Well, not vivid detail. He couldn't remember.
He couldn't remember.
Well, that's
hazy
right.
detail.
What he could remember. He found the name of the place that our loyal 85-year-old cabbie recommended, and
the free beer.
Ended up there somehow.
And yeah, I'm sure he had a good time while we were napping or ready to beat Andy with a pillow.
I did like how both you and Roger, independently of each other, talked about how like Andy has a rhythm with his snoring that you try to fall asleep to, and then y'all also both had to impersonate it, which is even better.
Andy has a rhythm. Yeah, I was just trying to find the opening. It's like, all right, wait, up, down. Oh, now he's choking. Now we're okay. Now we got three minutes. Hurry up.
And it's like y'all were singing a duet and trying to find your spot or whatever to kind of go.
It was rough. Yeah. So Sunday we pulled it together. It honestly took me a while again. I mean, it took me 3 hours just to eat 4 pieces of toast. But so we got showered, we all cleaned up, and some of us headed over to TGI Fridays. We met up with Mr. Krasafi and Mr. Holland, and we enjoyed a light little lunch. We enjoyed D'Amato trying to pick up the waitress. That was fun. Flirting with her the whole time. We enjoyed Roger getting antsy about trying to head out to our next destination, and kept asking what time they open and trying to plot it all out. It was fun, though. It was a good trip. Good trip to Fridays. We had a lot of laughs. We were watching the Winter Classic, and my mind is just not right from that weekend, but I wish I could remember some of the shit D'Amato was saying. He was really funny flirting with the waitress. We were really teasing her. Oh, that's what it was. Roger ordered a dessert for his meal. He wanted like the fucking, I forget what the hell it was, some pie or something. And then he ordered an appetizer, and D'Amato was just on him immediately about like how he was like our little son we had with him because he wanted to get the dessert, but he had to eat the appetizer first. And D'Amato was just riding him hard the whole time. It was really good.
They had a good bromance.
Oh, big time bromance.
They had a good bromance.
Big time, which is good because Roger and I usually have the bromance. Both Claire there, my attention was diverted big time, so it was good to have Roger find a friend to hang out with, and him and D'Amato hit it off immediately. So after
while that was happening, me and Brad in the hotel room was pounding a whole handle of Jack Daniels. I was very impressed, Brad.
Thank you, sir.
Between me, you, and Mike, we finished a whole handle of Jack in a pretty short span of time. So I think we were all feeling it as we headed out for the afternoon.
I can definitely tell you Brad was feeling it the way that when he came and met us, I was like Norm walking at the cheers. He got like this big ovation. So that was pretty cool.
The best part of that too was that I took the shuttle, right? So the cool thing that we used was the DoubleTree shuttle the whole time, and so it was a bunch of like younger wrestling fans that were in town, and then this guy jumped in the front seat, and then they dropped me off, and they all just looked at me like, "Who the hell is this guy?" Because I was blown away too. But
yeah, we had a good time, a very good time. Celebrated Brad's birthday in style.
Brad gets more aloof, I will say, when he when he's had a couple of beverages. It's a very interesting side of Brad. I enjoyed it.
My favorite part was Willie coming with us. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's pretty hilarious too.
And Steve Willie was like my alternate bromance when Claire wasn't there, because we had a lot of time. We were next to each other, Ring of Honor at Fridays, and afterwards. So it was good to spend a lot of time with Steve. I was very excited to get to do that and get to know him a little bit. I really I kept apologizing because I just wish I had more. I felt like I put all this effort in, and then people met me and they're like, "Oh, this guy fucking sucks in person. He's no fucking energy. Doesn't want to do anything."
That's what I was thinking.
Right?
I was thinking that. Yeah.
Felt bad. So we met back up, and we tried to coordinate us all meeting at the arena.
Oh god.
So we get there, and the line, they hadn't let anyone in yet, and it was like already like 7, right?
We can blame Jamie Noble for this.
So the line was out the door. Yeah, out the door and around the building, and we're trying to find each other. Poirier had to get his bag and was trying to find his friends, but he had your ticket, Chad. You weren't with him. So we had this weird dance going on. Poirier's friends recognized me from the tailgate, and they're like, "Do you know Mark Poirier?" I was like, "Yeah, he's just with us. He's over there." And they're like, "Where are his friends?"
I recognize that was the T-shirt dude.
Yeah.
From the Mania tailgate.
Oh, the one that made the T-shirts? Was that what it was?
His buddy who made the T-shirts.
He makes like the T-shirts. Yep.
Yeah, that was good stuff. So we finally ran into you, Chad, with your boys. You were with Mike and Doug, and then and Mr. Duncan and Isaac, his son, had met up with us at that point, and so we all kind of congregated outside for a few minutes, and of course, Claire and his boy hit the bar at the Marriott while we were waiting. So we finally get inside. And we go meet outside section 119. We have some dinner, and Chad, you and Andy and Roger put down the Pimenti brothers, right?
No,
I thought you guys got that sandwich.
I didn't. Roger did.
Oh, it was just Andy or Roger. Because I was asking them, I'm like, "Would you guys think this is a good idea?" And they're like, "No, probably not."
For the sandwich?
Idea.
Did they say the sandwich was good?
Yeah, they liked it a lot. They were just telling me not to do it.
D'Amato had been putting it over like huge the whole weekend, so I did want one, but the stadium prices were a little above my pay grade of what I was willing to pay.
Well, I didn't even want to spend the $9 on the chicken fingers, but I'm like, I gotta eat something at this point, so I'm not gonna make it.
Just to let the audience know, for those that don't know Pimenti brothers, their sandwiches, they put the coleslaw and the fries on the sandwich. So, needless to say, JR, I don't think you would have survived.
I really wanted it so bad. I really wanted it so bad. But I'm like, well, now's the time, right? I got nothing in my stomach. It's a healthy time to eat it. But I figured it would not sit well. So I couldn't even finish the fries with my chicken fingers. And somehow Roger ate them all. He's like, I'll eat them. I'm like, what the? You just ate that whole sandwich.
And he had dessert earlier.
That's right.
Roger, what a mess this whole trip. Do you want to tell about his merchandise purchases here?
Well, yeah. So, first we were going to try and take a group picture, but we couldn't. Yeah, Claire hadn't gotten in yet. So, and funny enough, Chad, as soon as you left, he got there. So I'm like, we could have just gotten the fucking picture and been done with it. Yeah. So you and Poirier went up to the 200s, and we all moved over to section 122, where we were sitting as a group. And this was one of my favorite things, and not to rub it in, Chad, but I loved being able to stand and like PTB was all spread out through the section, and like we really just owned it. Like we had Brad and his boys in one spot, Duncan and his son to the right of us, Willie was right behind us, and we had Krasafi a row ahead of us. It was just really cool how we were all right there and all able, kind of be able to yell at each other throughout the show and kind of crack jokes. And I'd hear Willie every now and then. And I'll take a minute before we get to Roger's merchandise. The guy behind us was this fucking straight up internet smart fucking 7.0 message board lover. Like he was just off the charts, and like Roger was like ready to punch her in the face because the whole show just bitching about everything. And then he started doing this weird thing where he kept contradicting himself. He's like, I don't like Batista, but I'd love him if he threw Sheamus out. Like, so everything was like a contradiction. He hated it, but he would love it if this happened. He's like, I didn't think I loved this match, but it's a real lot of fun. It was just really weird. He just so it became a running joke on me and Roger that went even into today at work with I hate this match, but I love it, kind of thing. So it was really weird.
I know somebody kind of local here. I don't know if I should name drop him, but Ben Turpin is a wrestling internet fan, and he's like that on Twitter. Like He argues with himself. Like, I don't understand. Like, he'll write these long, elegant tweets, and it'll be like, TNA ran a show for 500 people, but on the other hand, they have to run shows to stay in business. But how did they draw 500 people? It's like, well, who the fuck are you arguing with? Because I only see, yourself. But yeah, so y'all always are marks for the smart fans, because you remember at Mania, you had Grunberg's friend that was behind us calling all the moves that he was correcting, and that dude drove Andy nuts. So.
Well, this one was fucking and then this nincompoop fucking knocks a beer over and spills it on Andy's coat. And it's like, fucking Christ. And then we're taking a video. I have one of the New Age Outlaws, and the security, they were fucking assholes. Like, they were really aggressive. Like, the guy came over, was like, no videos! Turn the fucking camera off! And the kid behind me was getting, like, sassy with him. He's like, fuck you. He said it back, and the security guy was like, well, I'll fucking throw you out. And the kid was, like, making a face at him. Like, well, do us all a favor and throw him out, first of all. That'd be awesome. But they were, like, every time I walked by, they were, like, yelling at someone. I'm like, God fucking Christ, these guys were really angry.
Yeah,
so,
and later on, you and I had walked back. Remember, they had like that drunk kid detained. They're like, I want to keep your ticket right here. I had like, what was going on? These guys are out of control.
They were screaming at him. So Roger leaves right before the show starts to hit the merch table because he wanted to get a shirt and wanted to get one for his wife. And Chad, why don't you tell us the story of Roger's merchandise?
And they hadn't even released these on WWE Shop, but as we go in, we notice there's a new Ultimate Warrior shirt, the new Hall of Fame inductee. It's a really cool kind of yellow shirt with the plain Ultimate Warrior face paint on the front. Pretty cool shirt. So like you said, Roger wants a shirt for his wife. He decides that what better way to get a shirt for his wife than an Ultimate Warrior shirt?
Right, the most rational, non-misogynistic
very
person of all time.
And had good colors too. It could definitely be.
Well, I mean, the Warrior is very rational and not misogynistic.
Oh, right.
Misogynistic
Just
at all.
A perfect icon to look up to. Yes. So he goes up to the merchandise stand, sees a very colorful shirt with some face paint on it, and asks for that shirt. And the way he tells it is so good, because he says he gets the shirt, he looks around, and then he kind of slowly realizes that nobody else has this fucking shirt. And he's done paid the money. So then he unbundles this thing and is directly looking at Uso on the back of the shirt. So instead of the Ultimate Warrior shirt, his wife is now the proud owner of a Uso shirt.
And he had no clue. He's like, who are the Usos? And I'm like, well, you've seen them, I think.
I know, when he got back to the hotel room, he's like, well, I got the Usos.
I had to explain when they came out. I'm like, oh, this is the Uso. He's like, oh, I know them.
In addition to that, he decided to purchase himself a Batista shirt and was proudly wearing that around the arena, which, as we get to the show, was not the wisest decision on this night.
And in his mind, he's like, well, I'm going to get the shirt of the guy who's going to win, and he's the biggest star and all that. You know, his heart was in the right place.
He's a winner. He picked Batista to win.
Yeah.
Guys came back. He was somebody he knew. So, in Roger's mind, that was probably the best part. It was it really was like a little boy going to his first wrestling show. It was his first pay-per-view, live, bought his merch. He was back in the winter. And it just went all to shit with his Batista shirt. So.
All right, so let's talk about the show itself. So the Outlaws won the tag titles over the Rhodes Brothers. I didn't see that one coming. I know Scott had talked about it on Main Event, and Ben Morris was back in it. A little surprising, but mainly because, too, I had just read that Goldust had changed his mind now and did not want to do the match with Cody at Mania. Because the team was going so well, they don't want to end up splitting them up. So I thought for sure they were going to win. So that surprised me. It was it's the Outlaws, but it was pretty cool seeing them live. Did you guys think so?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are over, my man. They were, the crowd was way into them, and so that was cool. To see a title change in the pre-show match. I think we were all a little bit surprised. The guys 2 down from us on the right in our section were I'm pretty sure like the last wrestling show they went to was like during the Attitude Era. It may have been like Unforgiven 2001, like it was in Pittsburgh, and so they were going crazy that the New Age Outlaws were there.
And I gotta send Scott the video because I meant to send it to you. I took a video of their whole doing the mic work and everything for you.
Oh,
and,
awesome!
So I gotta send that over.
That's cool.
So the show itself starts. We open with Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt, and the place is just buzzing big time for Bryan. I mean, just as I mentioned on Wednesday, I've been in front of some pretty heady crowds and some big crazy reactions, and the Bryan buzz for this show was just off the charts. I mean, it was just 3 hours of the Bryan buzz. And that match was awesome. Really, really great opener. And if Stephen Graham was to redo his top 25 Royal Rumble matches, I'm curious where he'd rank it. Chad,
maybe ahead of that Minis match that he liked that a lot of people weren't too pleased with.
What'd you think of that match, Chad?
Match of the weekend, I think for sure. Probably, I'd say it was a low end, probably match of the year candidate for me. I have no problem going around 4 stars, 4.25 stars. By far, Bray's best match. I thought Bryan was really good in that match, kind of feeding into Bray's offense. And I'll give Bray some props, too, because he was able to carry his load of the match with the Face in Peril segment, and kind of his control segment was really good on Bryan. And then the finish, while I wasn't I guess the static is I kind of had hoped for a double Bryan win. We ended up getting 0, but I thought once he delivered to Sister Abigail on the outside in a vicious bump, and then did it on the inside, you kind of got the feeling that was going to be it for the pinfall. So really hot opener. Probably, I mean, it's tough to really rack your brain, but I think you can make a pretty good argument that might be like a top 5-10 opener in WWF pay-per-view history. And it went probably top 10.
And it went 21.5 minutes, which is crazy.
Right.
And I was fine with the loss because we all looked at each other. Claire looked at me, and I looked at Willie. We're like, well, he's winning the Rumble. It's locked in now.
Right.
I remember we're all like nodding, like, yep, this is happening. Brad, what'd you think of this one?
Yeah, this was great. I was also in like the 4.25 range, and Chad and you were texting back and forth after it was over. All of Bray's cutoffs were awesome. Like, Daniel, Bryan would get his offense in, and then he hit some big power moves, and everything to the outside was great too. We couldn't see it a little bit from where we were sitting. To give folks an idea, we were kind of on the like the Titantron was to our right, and we're like kind of right on that edge with it. But that was a really cool seat because personally, in our section, I could not see the Titantron at the entranceway. So instead of being distracted by like the video screen, all I could do was look at the ring, which is really cool. So I mean, like Chad said, and like Scott had mentioned in the PTB Network pod afterwards, I kind of agree with all you guys on that one. It was definitely awesome. The guy behind me, though, who was the only guy in the arena that did not like Daniel Bryan, and was continuing, like, he would tell people the whole time, I don't understand. He thought it was way too long and was complaining like 15 minutes in that this match should be shorter. So he was clearly out of his mind. But also during this match, I got to witness mini Chad Campbell. A young Chad Campbell was sitting behind me, a 7-year-old who was calling out moves like Tornado DDT and stuff right after it happened, and he was awesome. I like to imagine that in 15 years he's going to be writing for us. So
we should all.
He was very enamored with Mark Claire, who kept chanting "Pay your taxes" like we won baseball, and he was just laughing. And he would say it back and look at his dad like, "What is this? What does this mean? It must be funny because these guys are laughing at him." Because he was in between. Claire was 2 rows up from me, so I could turn around and hear this guy doing that, and so it was pretty funny.
And that little boy grew up to be Dan McGinn.
Right.
Of course, we need to mention the Goldust fan as well. The guy painted up just like Goldust with this very detailed paint job and the shaved head, and like to put that much work into your costume for a guy, and then he wrestles in the pre-show for 6 minutes, loses the titles, and then disappears. And it's like he looked so sad, the poor guy. After that, he just looked sad.
He also looked just like Goldust, like his head was.
Yeah. Well, maybe like Goldust from before he got into like the yoga shape.
Yeah, he looked more like Black Rain. Yeah.
Yeah, he Roman Reigns. So very good opener. And then we go to Brock Lesnar and the Big Show, which was not as good. It went 2 minutes. Brock beat the piss out of Big Show with a chair. Big Show landed one punch. Brock beat him up some more, and then got the win. And then after the match, we got like 10 minutes of him just beating on him with a chair. And some of it was funny where, like, the ref would take one away or he'd break it and Heyman would toss him another one and strut around like Paul Bearer. And, like, that part was cool, but it just went on way too fucking long. Just way too long. And by the end, the crowd was just kind of done with it.
Yeah, I think the stories about him being injured, Big Show being injured the night before, makes sense because, you know, he was on Chad's plane ride home then too, so he wasn't sticking around for Raw. So maybe they cut it short. That was something they talked about on Scott's podcast too, and it makes sense in hindsight here.
Yeah, but like they were talking about, I mean, what the hell did he injure? Because this guy got his ass beat.
Right, I was gonna say if he got hurt, he wouldn't take 40 chair shots.
He was not limping or nothing visibly when he was getting on the plane. So I don't know what the deal was.
The best was him taking 20 chair shots and then getting to his feet and holding his arm in pain.
Yeah, his back looked nasty.
Yeah, it was pretty
after the chair shots, but the beatdown did go for way too long. So.
All right, then it was world title time. Randy Orton and John Cena, and
Yeah.
the crowd just did not want to see this match at all. They just wanted Daniel Bryan so bad. So I felt bad for these guys, but again, this was like their 18th pay-per-view match or something crazy like that. It was just one that we didn't need to see again, and they ended up having a decent match. Like, the match really wasn't that bad, but the crowd was just all over them. And Orton, you know, to his credit, kept stopping and doing the posing, and Cena was playing up to it a little bit too. When everyone started chanting for Jericho, he tried to do the walls, and I mean, they were clearly just trying to do their best to work through the crowd. And I thought we had some original crowd chants here too. We had the "We Want Divas," "This is awful." There were some good ones, I thought.
Yeah.
This is awful was a little harsh, but I like the "We Want Angle." Like, you don't hear them chant. The crowd usually chant for Kurt Angle on one of these. So.
And people
and
on
the wave
and people online I thought they were saying "We want refunds," but it was definitely "We want Divas." That was
it was definitely "We want."
Well, no, it was both. It was both.
Was it?
I mean, one thing, I don't know if this is just the console energy center, the way it's set up, but I mean, from where I was sitting, the guys behind us in my section were starting a lot of chants that would get some play in the upper deck. But then the people kind of facing the Titantron, that section, I was seeing they were the ones that were starting a lot of the chants on the lower deck. And there would be some crossover, but like I saw, they were the ones that started fandangoing first, and then it kind of caught on. But yeah, it was both chants up there that the guys I know up above me were chanting, "We want refunds." And they were chanting like Bobby Heenan and a bunch of other like random stuff that didn't even make the air.
Well, Randy Savage was the big one down in the lower area that got on TV, but it was definitely "We Want Divas" was definitely pretty overwhelming at one point, which I thought was hilarious. That, and then the crowd got into it at the end though, when they started trading the finishers on and off, and it was looking like Cena was going to maybe pull out the win, and then we got the static and the lights went out and the Wyatts came out, beat the crap out of Cena, and Orton got the pin for the title to retain.
Which Roger said you took credit for saying that they rushed somebody under the ring.
Justin.
Brad.
Which I had to
I didn't
correct.
take credit for that.
Yeah, Roger
you?
said that you took credit for it, Justin.
I did not take credit. I had no voice and no energy. I was just trying to get the point across. I just said
that you said, yep, somebody just rushed under the ring there. Yeah.
Yeah, so to clarify for everyone, while they were showing the Cena Orton recap for the second time that night, which is really enjoyable, they had like a whole bunch of stage guys ran out with a guy in a suit, and it looked like they were like adjusting the ring, even though they had already done like where they take the apron off and change the mat.
I saw the guys running back anyway. Fucking hillbilly.
And so they ran out, and it was dark, but you could see like, oh, there must be something wrong with the ring. And then Chad had let everybody know that he's pretty sure somebody's under
Chad was
there.
all on it. He's the only one in the arena who saw it.
So Chad ruined the match.
He saw that, and he's the only one that started the chants.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, this match was I'd like to watch the match kind of in a vacuum because you could not enjoy the in-ring action.
No.
Based on the crowd reaction. I do think Orton pitched a hissy fit. I agreed with Scott saying that he thought Orton looked rattled. I agree with that. I think Orton was rattled and pitched a little temper tantrum during this match. And it was just a match that wasn't necessary. The fans told him that, and that's the way it is. I mean, Cena is a guy, and it'll be interesting since it looks like he's definitely going to be in there with Wyatt coming up at Mania. I think he's a guy where, you know, I mean, he's going to get booed or whatever and have an electric reaction, but I definitely think if he's in there with someone else that the fans care about, whether it's Punk or Bryan, that they won't hijack the match necessarily. I mean, they may boo Cena, but they're going to be invested in the actual match, and they'll cheer his spots. I thought that was astute of Will on that show, talking about how when he did do the "You Can't See Me" the first time, like, hardly no one was chanting that. Like, the people just did not care. It wasn't necessarily that they hated. I mean, I think they were more just like apathetic to the match as a whole instead of just like a pure hatred towards Cena or whatever.
I mean, I was there for Goldberg Brock, and I thought this was more of a crowd hijack than that was, because this was a stronger hijacking. Brock Goldberg was more like pockets. This was, I don't ever remember in a full arena being on the same page as much as this was. Like, just all on the same page. Like, it was almost like we were all talking on a message board and telling how we should act, and we all did it. Right. Like, it was overwhelming. And this went 21 minutes, and yeah, I mean, it was one of the craziest matches I've ever experienced live. It was just, I mean, to me, if you're going to pay to go to a live show, if you're not going to get a blow-away, awesome show, I'd rather have a fucking train wreck like this, so at least it was memorable. I mean, I really enjoyed being here live because it was so fucking memorable. It was just so crazy. It's better than going to a shitty show. And actually, I thought this one wasn't bad. I mean, wrestling-wise. Like, the opener was, to me, worth the money alone almost, and that's how good it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say bell to bell, this was probably like a B plus type show. Probably a B if I had to give a grade. But
and bumped by the crowd.
But yeah, it was interesting. And then, I mean, you have a lot of interesting anecdotes, like we'll get to Punk in the Rumble with his situation. I mean, it may be a lot more memorable in retrospect than, you know, right as you were sitting there live. But I wonder what the Wyatts were thinking, just kind of sitting under the ring there when all this crap was happening. I mean, you know, they could certainly hear the crowd. And
sure.
I wonder if, I mean, I wonder too if, I mean, because they did not deviate whatsoever from this match based on the crowd. And I do wonder if the Wyatts, if that spot hadn't have been so strategically planned, you know, where it was a time spot at this moment, the music was going to hit or whatever. I wonder if they would have called an audible and either condensed the match or just done something different. But
you think I mean, they could have gone to because essentially the timing was that as soon as they started to give each other their own finisher is when it happened. Like, that was I imagine that was the pre-planned piece. Yep. That was the cue, was, you know, Cena hit the RKO, and then, you know, they traded it back and forth and whatnot. And I think that Cena tried. I mean, I don't know. Did you catch, you know, Cena's leg drop from the top rope? That was probably the best one he's ever hit. I mean, he flew to try to get that move over. I thought they broke out some of the bigger stuff midway through by design to somehow pop the crowd and bring it back. But much like them chanting for the Divas, I actually took advantage and took a piss break during this one so I could enjoy the Rumble myself. So I did not partake in the wave either that was going on.
Well, I just refused to do the wave, so I watched it go right by me.
I refused to. Doug did it next to me, but I did not.
I saw him.
And I was wondering, I mean, the camera front crowd did not seem as, I would say, interested, or they seemed more like along the company line with that match than the other part of the arena. Because, like, for instance, the fandangoing, like on the side behind the commentators, I mean, there was a crap load of people doing the fandango. And then I looked to the camera shot crowd, and there was, you know, like one or two. So I was a little like by this point, my phone had completely died. So I was disconnected from anybody. So I was wondering, I was like, I mean, will this be as vocal on TV, or, you know, if they just see, I watched it again. I was pleasantly surprised with how vocal it was, because I kind of imagined them saying maybe the crowd was dead just looking at the camera side. Right. But yeah, you could certainly hear the chants from around.
Yeah, the Fandango thing was pretty crazy. We'll talk about that now. So the Rumble starts, CM Punk number 1 and Seth Rollins number 2. And I guess we'll get into the Punk stuff right away. there's been rumors that he had a concussion or got hurt, and I would think maybe because he did lay in that corner for a long time.
Nothing.
I mean, he really, I kept hearing he was the Iron Man, and he got screwed, and you have Batista coming at the end. And I'm like, we're really the Iron Man in this match. He kind of was sleeping half the time. He's in there for 49 minutes, ended up being the long man, just just about 40 seconds longer than Seth Rollins, who had a great performance coming in number 2 and getting tossed out by the end. We don't have to go guy by guy here, but we can just mention, Kane comes out, of course, in the suit. As part of the corporate guy, he goes right
Mark
after.
Claire was excited for Kane.
Yes,
he has been a guest. You can find that on Place to Be Nation. He was super excited.
Calling him Glenn. He was calling him Glenn.
He was.
Because that was how he knows him on the show.
totally broke kayfabe there. But
the debut of Alexander Rusev from NXT. And, of course, the rumor in the arena was that we were going to see Sami Zayn.
Yeah, that was some bad intel from Bradley there.
Todd Weber.
Oh,
told Jordan Duncan.
Weber has issues.
Jordan
Never listened to him.
Told us. So both of them are listening. No, it was Todd told Jordan, and Jordan told us.
You've never seen more disappointment on a Canadian's face than Mark Poirier when Rusev came rushing down the ring instead of Sami Zayn. He had the Ole Ole El Generico chant queued up for all of us to start doing, and you crushed his dreams.
The big hitter came in at number 9, Jimmy Uso. Roger whipped the shirt out. He was ready to go. Goldust came in at 10, and the Goldust near Russ got excited again. His boy was back. Dolph Ziggler, I would have liked to see a little bit more to him. Again, a guy just 6 minutes. And
Dolph got a monster pop.
Got a big pop.
Yeah. It's pretty sad. Kevin Nash came back.
Oh, God.
His return and hobbled to the ring. And he had one of the worst eliminations in Rumble history. Barely tumbled over the rope. The one that bothered me was Great Khali. You fly this guy in. It's clearly not good for him to fly probably at this point. And he can't be comfortable, right? He comes in and is in the ring for 24 seconds. Like, why did you need to do this to him? Why didn't he even need to be there?
Well, I think that he had to be in for Raw and SmackDown anyway. So
I'm sure he had to be in for Raw and SmackDown.
But
we have to have him on Raw
You're
and
absolutely right.
SmackDown.
He's still in like the top 3 worst entrants. I mean, because, honestly, outside of obvious the glaring omission, talent-wise, this is a pretty good Rumble.
Yeah.
Besides him and, guys that one guy we're going to talk about later, pretty good. I mean, they had all the guys that were very active that you see on a weekly basis. It was pretty stacked like that.
Sheamus came in at 17, making his return the first time in about, 10 months or so. A pretty good pop because the crowd was still into this because we all assumed Bryan was coming. So everyone was still into it. So they weren't shitting on much yet. Fandango came out, as we mentioned. The crowd brought back the Fandangoing, which was fun to be part of. El Torito at 20, Los Matadores welcomed him in. So he was kind of the comedy worker of this. They ended up actually eliminating Fandango and got a lot of his spots in for about the minute and a half he was in the ring. JBL was one of the surprise guys at 24, came out of the commentary booth.
Shitty.
Stupid. What a waste of a surprise. He gets dumped right out.
This may be one of the worst surprise Rumbles. I mean, even... I don't think Jake the Snake would have been a big surprise,
right.
In the sense of the word. But, I mean, really our surprises were Sheamus, Nash, and Torito and JBL. And of those, I'd say only really Torito and I guess Sheamus were worthwhile. Like JBL, I mean, he did get the "You Still Got It" chant at the end, which was funny. But his elimination was just a waste of time. At that late, I think he was like number 24.
Yep.
They did a comedy bit with the announcers, and I was really annoyed by that one.
And
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, I was a little surprised at how over JBL was. Like, I get, like Michael Cole, he doesn't get introduced on pay-per-views. He just comes down in the dark because he would just be booed out of his, and Lawler gets a big chant. But JBL gets such a huge ovation. And, and honestly, he's playing a heel character, too, right now. Obviously kind of always sympathizes with the Authority. But even when he got called in, like, the people all around that area were so jacked for him. I don't get it. Like,
he's a legend,
I guess.
I have to say that from the perspective of somebody watching from home, and I said this to Will and Johnny Sorrows, and at least for you guys in the building, by the time this pick was made is when I first noticed the arena getting a little skittish. By the time this pick happened. Because I think a lot of people were thinking, oh, perfect spot for Daniel, and he's not.
I thought Brian was going to be 30 the whole time. But we were keeping track of the surprises, me and Roger, and you could kind of start. I mean, JBL ended up being the last one. We thought there was one more spot. We were miscounting because we forgot about one guy. I thought he was going to be 30 for sure. And then we're thinking, well, they could always knock someone out if they have to. But as 25 went by, Eric Rowan, 26, Ryback, Del Rio at 27, Batista at 28. And they were like, okay, we got 2 guys left. Big E, and if Big E comes in at 29, then Brian has to be 30. We thought for sure. So Big E comes out. I'm like, here comes Brian at 30. And then fucking Rey Mysterio, who we had forgotten all about, comes out. And this guy just got lynched by this crowd.
Yeah, I felt bad for Rey. I really
They
did.
were just really pissed off. And I think they picked Rey for a reason because they knew probably the crowd was going to be pissed and he could handle it and not get rattled and also pretty much bulletproof by it. So at this point is when the crowd completely just turned on this match.
Yeah,
altogether.
And where I was sitting was I couldn't see the numbers. I'd asked you afterwards, like, yo, were they showing like what number each guy was on the Titantron? And you're like, yeah, we couldn't see it, so we had no idea that Rey was number 30, except that then like the boos started to come in. But the crowd was getting a little tired at this point, and like Chad said earlier, it was coming from different parts. It was a little more scattered, so I'm curious how it shows up on the on the replay. But so we didn't know until obviously 2 minutes went by, and we're like, oh, I think that was 30, and then we'd already started to really kind of turn it down in my area when Batista came out. And to be fair too, when they did like the Rumble kind of snippets beforehand, where each guy gave like their crappy catchphrase, and Rey Mysterio got booed there too, and so did Batista. And
everyone just wanted to see Brian, and at this point at the end, everyone is completely turned on the match 100%, and Batista had 0 people cheering for besides Roger. And Reigns, who we should mention, Roman Reigns, had an awesome run. The whole Shield really dominated the Rumble. And Reigns eliminated 12 guys. And we get down to the final 4, and it's, who was it? Reigns, Batista, Sheamus, and
Punk.
Yep.
So Kane had been hiding at ringside, which is funny too, because we could see him just
for about
bent
30
over.
minutes. Yeah,
it's weird.
Well, Sandow too. Did y'all notice that? Like Sandow got eliminated, and he just like hung out for 15 minutes, and I was like, well, he's either going to do an angle or he got hurt or something. And he just like casually walked to the back. So I still don't understand what happened there.
I think he was trying to be funny and like sell that he was shocked getting thrown out in 2 minutes because he had said he was going to win the whole thing or whatever. So I think
he really sold it to the max there, because it was like it legitimately 10 minutes. He just stood there, and then he, like I said, just kind of walked to the back.
And then Kane hid for a while, and he ended up costing Punk, which
terrible elimination there.
Though, but if he had, and I know I'm going to contradict myself, but I'm going to say it up front. Like, I started thinking more like if the concussion thing was real, it explains why. Because earlier there was a really weak, like, Mysterio looked like garbage too here, and he and Punk did a really, really bad like tease over the ropes where like my whole section was like booing, like, what was this crap, But then it makes more sense. Like, if he knew that Punk was hurt, then when Kane eliminated him, he took it really easy on him.
But then they still chokeslammed Punk through the table.
Yeah. So where's this is this? I mean, did Schumacher say anything, or is this just some little nugget in his head? I mean, I know it was in his article, but
I saw it a couple other places, I think, too, that they gave him a test. And didn't they say one of the stories from backstage was that he yelled that I passed your fucking test or something like that?
Yes, there's a couple of stories that said that that Punk was yelling, I've already passed your fucking concussion tests. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, to me, if he's going to get eliminated, I don't know if they were trying to appease Punk or what, but if he's going to get eliminated by Kane anyway, like, just let Kane dump him there early on. I mean, it just seemed like even though he hadn't been doing much, he was in the final 4. By this point, the crowd was pretty violent, like definitely shitting on the match. And then to have somebody, Punk, who was over with the crowd, go out in one of the weakest, elimination circumstances, it didn't bode well.
They should have said Kane be like 27 and eliminate him. That's what I thought was going to happen.
I mean, I get the tease because, like, when Kane came in and then, like, Punk eliminated him, you're like, wow, that was quick, for that little feud. Maybe Punk's going to, stay in there and make a big run at it. So I get that point of it. It was a little bit different, but...
And then Sheamus, Batista, and Reigns with the last 3. Sheamus gets tossed. And the crowd actually seemed to be more behind Sheamus than Batista.
Yeah,
Well, he did the little punches thing where everybody was chanting no.
Yeah, I was really big on that one.
Sheamus also is someone who cannot, like, he pointed to the WrestleMania sign, which, I mean, why? I mean, come on. And then he just another guy that didn't seem to have any context to what was happening and couldn't adapt his style. So.
Right. Yeah, I did really like that when he was beating his chest, because I kind of got really into that in our section too. Is one of the few ones, and we're doing the no chants for each one. That was pretty loud. The whole crowd was in on that one.
So Sheamus gets tossed. We're down to Batista and Reigns, and the crowd went all in on Reigns. Chanting his name, rooting for him, booing anything Batista did. And for a few minutes, it seemed like they may actually pull the trigger and have Reigns win. And then Batista dumped him after a pretty good battle back and forth at the end. And Batista pretty much booed out of the building after he won. And it felt good to get it all out, kind of, like just to let them know. So he's leaving at the end. A fan flips him off. He flips him off back. He goes to the end of the aisle and is doing the Daniel Bryan yes motion to rub it in, and walks off, which of course became a huge thing on the internet the next day. I saw some bullshit reports saying he was like aggressively flipping fans off. I'm like, he flipped one guy off, and that's because the guy got in his face too.
Right, and even the finger also spit at him. Yeah.
I'm like, come on. So I didn't blame Batista for that, but. I mean, overall,
he played his music really, really loud in the arena.
Yeah. Well, they started setting up the I caught this one. No, Chad didn't have to tell me this.
I saw this too.
They started setting up the pyro before the match even ended, so you knew it was going to be Batista. I mean, just to not even have Bryan in the match, and it's not like it's a regular match either. You have an hour to call an audible, and a bunch of scrubs at the end that you can easily explain away. Like you could have Bryan beat up Eric Rowan in the back and take his spot or something if you wanted to.
Or I like your idea of have him come out as Rey Mysterio and take the mask off. I mean, the place would have come unglued.
There's a lot of things you could have done, and they had plenty of time to call the audible, and they didn't do it, and just completely backfired on them. And unless it is part of some big grand plan, which it doesn't seem like it was, I don't get it. And you wonder too now what Punk's future is as well. And I'm sure Scott and the boys will get into this in the main event next week, so we won't go too deep into it. But that might have ended up being Punk's final WWE match. We'll see.
Yeah, this I think was a fucking train wreck. I don't really know of any other way to say it. I think you can look at their booking, and if you think it's part of some elaborate plan, it's like, just look at their booking. I mean, they had Roman Reigns with the Superman push, break the record. They had somebody with Rey who I don't think they thought would get obviously like booed out of the building, but I don't think they really care too much about Rey's feelings at this point, honestly. So he was a good person to put at the 30, and they had somebody returning, like a big star returning after 4 years that they thought would get the win. So I know that they thought that Bryan would be on some people's minds, but I think that they put those things in place to kind of erase that, and it just did not work for them. And I thought it was really awful, and one of the more short-sighted, I would say, booking nights in really WWF, WWE history. And I don't think too, I will say this, watching it live, I think it's really tough to get a sense that like Reigns broke the record for a lot of people. I mean, like when he eliminated the 12th person, we had been keeping count. And there was like kind of a smattering of applause at that point. But I don't think without the commentators kind of leading you through. I mean, I think a lot of people knew he'd thrown out a lot of guys. But, you had to be a pretty hardcore wrestling junkie to say, oh, that was number 12. That broke the record. But, they could have called an audible and done it with Reigns. I mean, this whole shit about they promised Batista a world title shot. I mean, what, he's 5 fucking years old. I mean, he's that much of the student of the game that he has to have a world title shot at WrestleMania. I mean, it's time to see what you got with Daniel Bryan. I mean, the time is now, to quote John Cena, and see what you got. I mean, he may not be the breakaway star, but as we talked, I mean, I do think he's getting bigger reactions since the heyday of Rock and Austin.
Mhm.
So at least see what you got. I mean, strap a rocket to him and see what you got.
And I felt bad for Reigns too. His moment kind of got lost and shit on. I mean, this is a huge performance for him, and it's it's going to be remembered as the night the fans turned.
Right.
No, and they could have done. Obviously, they chose to not have Bryan in the match at all, but they still could have had him in there, and they could have had Sheamus or Batista eliminate him. I mean, you could really cement the
See, I don't like that idea. If you're going to have him in it, he's going to win, I think.
Yeah, if he'd got in there and Batista would have eliminated him, it would have had to have been like a full-fledged and even in a Rumble match, I don't like that because then that kind of eliminates him being like in the WrestleMania main event.
I think if Batista eliminated Daniel Bryan, Roger would have had to get covered up with an overcoat, or else he would have got the shit kicked out of him trying to get him out of the fucking building. No, not me! Poor Roger's running out to the exit. No.
Yeah, so he was celebrating, of course, and rubbing it in. His guy had won.
Oh, Lord.
And so we go to we leave. We go to the section where we're supposed to be meeting up with Chad at Poirier. That never happened. But we were there for, a good 15 minutes. Security's like yelling at us. And Roger's flaunting his shirt around. We were joking we should take a video of us beating the crap out of him and see if it goes viral. Like, angry Daniel Bryan fans assault Batista fan in concourse.
We thought about that actually a little bit longer than you'd think. So
yeah, we took a bunch of pictures and we're there having a good time. And finally, we ended up leaving, and we all met up at the Marriott, which was where Jordan Duncan and a few of the guys were staying, and that was where Vince and the staff were staying. I guess there weren't too many actual wrestlers there. It was more of kind of the management. But we saw Pat Patterson, we saw Kevin Nash hobble in. We saw the Twin Towers. That was great. Lillian, yep, she came in. And the bar was just mobbed there as well. So we hung out there for about a half hour.
The Marriott had no idea that this could happen after a pay-per-view because there was no security or anybody stopping. You could come right in and just congregate there.
Yeah, it was pretty mobbed. We should mention, though, earlier in that day, Christophe had been having lunch at the Marriott, and they were filming Total Divas there. And he had seen a bunch of wrestlers there. I think Cole and JBL were staying there as well because Duncan saw them working out the next morning, and Christophe said Cole was not very nice to them. In the elevator that they saw him, and then someone else, Dean Ambrose, wasn't very nice to them. But they said Damien Sandow was really cool. Christophe was saying, but so yeah, that was pretty much right. The weekend. We went back to the room. We all said our goodbyes. We passed out around probably close to 1, and we had a wake up call of 5:30. Me and Andy and Roger with the snoring fired up again, and it was like 3:30. And I look over, and Roger's like flipping through Netflix. I'm like, this kid is gonna be a fucking zombie tomorrow. And so I finally fall back asleep. I probably got about 3.5 hours, and I got to wake up Roger in the morning before we left to make sure he was up for his flight. And I feel like I was pulling him out of a casket. Like, I rolled him over, and like his eyes were like all bloodshot. He just looked like terrible, like just death in the. And we were joking because we said his cot looked like a hospital bed. So it was like I literally was just like his final moments. I rolled him over, and like he just did not look good at all. So we had a pretty uneventful flight home. We made all our connections and got home. But it was a great weekend. It was all, despite everything else, it was a lot of fun and a really interesting show to be part of. Definitely one of those ones, like we've said, it wasn't a great 5-star affair up and down the board, but it was a lot of fun to be part of that moment and witness that. And it was cool that we had our whole crew was there for that. It was a lot of fun. Something we got to hopefully do again soon. So it came out afterwards that CM Punk had went home. And a lot of news and rumors out there this week about if it's a work, if it's true. I kind of thought it was a work at first to go with the Daniel Bryan stuff. And even Mick Foley's tweets to me, I thought seemed like a work when he was bitching about Bryan and all that stuff. And like I keep waiting for like a big faction to show up with all these guys. But I don't know. I guess the more that happens, the more real it seems. I mean, they're taking him off the website. They unfollowed him on Twitter. Like, all this stuff, they took him off Access, and they replaced him to give him refunds. Like, I feel like they wouldn't go that far if he wasn't coming back. But then there's the rumors now that he's going to be in L.A. the night that Raw's there because he texted Gracie and said, let's hang out. I'm going to be in L.A. So, I don't know. All this weird shit going on. But I guess that's just the era that we're in.
Agree. I think he's done for the foreseeable future. That's my hunch.
I think he's upset that he never really had a chance to heal. And I think if this domino effect continues, and we're going to elaborate on this on Wednesday on the main event. Was it Rotella? Somebody said to me this week that it all started last year when they introduced the belt in the Rock Cena feud and gave Rock a title reign.
Yeah.
And now it's like, every guy's going to every fucking retired guy's going to, I want the belt one more time. I want the belt one more time. And the whole thing's going to turn out to be this was a bad year for Batista to come back. And they're talking about Hogan coming back, and it's just a bad year for all this shit.
Well, they're saying Hogan's going to be more like, he's not going to wrestle now. They're saying he's going to be the host of Mania.
Right.
I can't think of another time in history when they were on the precipice of something so great, and they took one wrong turn, and now it's like wrecked everything. Like, Bryan, they could reinsert him, and he'll still be over, and everyone will love it. But it's not the same as how organic it just could have been and how great it could have been if he won the Rumble. Like, that crowd would have been... They would have won Pittsburgh for life if they did it. Instead, they might have ruined the town. It's like... And now you pissed off Punk, and who knows if he would have walked anyway. But if Bryan wins the Rumble, maybe less chance he maybe ends up sticking around. Now to lose them and you're hitching your wagon to Batista, it's just... It's not good. They got to figure something out for Mania, and I don't know if they're going to do the three-way with Bryan, Orton, and Batista, or what they're going to do. But Bryan has to end Mania with the title and be in the main event, I think, at this point, or else they're really going to run into some issues.
Right.
Yeah.
They cannot roll Batista Orton out there for the title.
No, it'll die.
And we should note again, Batista looked like crap,
right,
in this match, and even on his promo, the following Raw was just awful. Like, just not even passionate, mailing it in.
I think at this point, maybe they should flip it and have Bryan win the title at the Chamber and go in and beat Batista. Have Batista go full heel, douchebag, straight up piece of shit, talk down to Bryan, belittle him, ridicule him, say he ran Punk out of town and all this stuff, and then Bryan beats him at Mania. That might be even... Because he's already been champion, so I feel like him winning the belt at Mania isn't as imperative as him just being in the main event and having a big win at Mania as champion. So I think him winning at the Chamber... and then beating Batista in the main event at Mania, and then maybe have him beat Triple H in Seattle at Extreme Rules.
Yeah.
I think those few steps could really make him. You have him win the Chamber, defeats Orton, gets his heat back by pinning Orton finally. Then he goes on to Batista, beats him at Mania to put that to bed, and then you beat Triple H at Extreme Rules, and I think you have your next megastar. I don't know if they'll do it. Probably not, but that's what I would do. All right, any final thoughts, Brad or Chad, on the weekend?
No, great weekend. It was great seeing everybody. It was a good follow-up to the WrestleMania tailgate that we had before. Some great stories that we'll always have from that. So look forward to the next one.
How about you, Chad?
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed seeing Cosmo D'Amato smuggle his eight things of soap and shampoo through TSA on the Monday morning. But I had a fun time.
That's right. Scott, any final thoughts on the Rumble or anything you heard here tonight?
Nothing surprised me that any of you guys did. I don't know what. I mean, within probably by the time we get to WrestleMania 31, which I'm sure Claire will probably go to in Santa Clara, his liver's going to look like bacon. But other than that, it seemed like you guys had a good time. JR, I'm glad you're alive. You probably felt how Roger looked on Monday morning, but I'm glad you had a blast. I'm glad you guys had a good time. I wish I could have joined you, but I'm glad you had fun. And if the rumor that SummerSlam is at the Garden in August, might be a nice little one-day thing. Maybe we could do in the big city if that rumor is true. But
D'Amato already has his book for that weekend.
Yeah.
All right, good. I'm going to be seeing him. I'm going to be seeing him Monday night actually at the Garden. So
I think we'll do if it is at MSG. I think we would do more than just one day. I think we'd have to at least do Saturday into Sunday.
Well, you got to think though, Ring of Honor would run the Saturday, so.
And there would be a fan fest if you wanted to take your kids 4 times there.
That's right.
So they do that for SummerSlam, not for the Rumble though. So
they did it when it was in Phoenix. Was it last year?
Yeah.
Didn't they do like a little? Yeah. Didn't they do like a fest? Remember they did like a bunch of stage shoot interview things or whatever the hell it was. Was that last year or the year before? No, it had to be last year.
It was last year. They did like an access. Yeah.
Yeah. That weird. Yeah, it was very weird. But
all right,
we'll have to see.
Let's wrap things up, Scott. We are off next week. as far as the PTB goes, but we will be in the house as I will be working with Kevin Kelly for episode 2 of the Kevin Kelly Show. And not sure who the guest is yet. I know Kevin's working on some pretty decent-sized names, and hopefully we'll have something big in the works. And Scott, you have the same lineup, I believe, for main event?
Yep, we will have the core 4, Mr. Duncan, Mr. Willie, Mr. Morse, and Mr. Reish will be with me Wednesday night. And it's a quiet news week. I don't know what we're going to talk about. Not much going on.
Something tells me you'll find something.
We'll find something.
And then on the following week, we have Unforgiven 2001, and then we're going to have Will and Charles back because we're going to be talking the second half of WCW 1994. So there's the next couple of shows here on the PTB Network. Stay tuned to our Facebook and Twitter pages, and we'll keep you abreast of all of the updates there. And if you go to PlaceToBeNation.com, we have kind of an updated little look there for you now. And you can go over to the podcast button, and you have all our shows listed, all the great shows, the Kevin Kelly Show, the main event, the Place to Be Network, which is going to host monthly reviews at the very least, and that'll be the night of the show of pay-per-views. Will's going to host those. Scott, you'll be part of those, hopefully, every month. And just like we did for the Rumble, we hope to have those for you each and every show. Titans of Wrestling, where the big boys play, Wrestling with the Past, Goodwill Wrestling, Grapple Talk, Wrestling Culture, Kings of Sport, Wrestling Across America, Richer and the Mailman, and Answering the 10 Count, all there for you. And, of course, the legend of Brad and Chad is there, too. Some really cool pieces up today. The High Spot looked at the departure of CM Punk. Matt Hardy's legal woes continue or have reignited. And that's Glenn Butler and Steve Willie bringing that. We had a huge, gigantic, hard-traveling fanboys looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Greg and Nick were joined by all of the comics guys at the site, and they went through and talked about that. Adam Murray, if you're hyped up for some Super Bowl commercials, gave you a complete guide to this year's commercials. And, of course, check out Kevin Kelly's introduction to Kevin Kelly's World at PlaceToBeNation.com, plus all the other great pieces, movies, Hoops with Andrew Reish, did a great look at David Stern, and all your regular recaps as well. And check out our show. This past Wednesday, we reviewed SummerSlam 01 with Scott Keith. So, for Brad and Chad, that is Scott. I am Justin. On the PTB, we'll talk to you a week from Monday. And otherwise, we'll talk to you Wednesday night with Kevin and the main event boys. Until then, everyone have a great weekend. We'll talk to you in a bit. Take care.
Where do you think Claire really went?
I thought her name was Amanda.
And by the way, he had no idea that even existed. So, just the motto of the Godfather.
A place where no one follows me. I walk alone. I'm sick of all these people talking out their heads. I've never understood a damn thing that they said. From words to action. place where no one follows.